I welcome the opportunity to talk with you today about the financial pressures facing CBC Radio-Canada, but given the committee's motion, I would like to address the issue of bonuses first. For the record, CBC Radio-Canada does not award so-called bonuses. What we have, like every other Crown corporation, is at-risk or performance pay, which is a key part of the total compensation of our non-union staff, about 1,140 employees.
So for today's video, we got a good one. Catherine Tate, the CEO of CBC, was a witness at a committee hearing on Tuesday in regards to an announcement they made back in December where they were going to be laying off 800 employees in order to save like $125 million. However, even with the cuts, it's come to light that the executives as well as the CEO will probably be getting a bonus at the end of the year. And so at this hearing, she got pretty grilled, and this is just some of it.
Ms. Tate, thank you for giving us your time today. We much appreciate it. In your opening remarks, one of the statements that you made is that is that, of course, you outlined some challenges that the CBC faces. I should also outline, though, that every other media outlet in this country doesn't start off with $1.4 billion taxpayer dollars at the start of the year. So while you might look to, play a bit of a card there in terms of poor me, let's start off with the fact, and that is compared to other outlets in this country that are conducting themselves to perform at a higher standard than the CBC in many ways, they're not starting off with that. So I think that's an important point that needs to be acknowledged.
Now, right off the bat, I love this jab by Rachel Thomas. If you don't know her, she's kind of a bulldog. She gets in trouble a lot, especially during question period. She likes to speak out and say a lot of outlandish things. But right here, she makes a great point. They are the only ones that are taxpayer funded, and $1.4 billion is a lot of money. Now, as you're going to hear pretty soon, Catherine tries to defend herself by saying, oh, but that hasn't changed in 30 years. Well, if you take $1.4 billion multiplied by 30 years, that's over $42 billion the CBC has gotten. I mean, if you can't get your broadcasting corporation to kind of profit with that kind of handout every year, something's going on. But let's just continue.
Ms. Tate, we're here to talk about job cuts and bonuses, or you prefer to call them performance awards. And so my first question for you is, you've had 2 months to think on it. Of course, you were asked during an interview on national news, in fact, the CBC National, you were asked whether or not bonuses would be considered for executives, and you said it wasn't ruled out, essentially. And so having 2 months to think about it, have you come to a conclusion? Will there be bonuses for the executives within CBC?
Thank you for the question. I just want to clarify the reality of the obligations of the public broadcaster. Of course, we have the privilege of a very, very generous parliamentary allocation, which, by the way, has not substantially increased in over 30 years. And during that time, we have added to traditional and radio, traditional television and radio, with digital services on all platforms. So we're operating with the same budget that we had 30 years ago. And where we get the same pressure as our colleagues in the private sector is from, in fact, the third of our budget that we earn in commercial revenues, which are absolutely vulnerable to the vagaries of the market. And that's the place where we have challenges.
Ms. Tate, in the interest of time, could you please answer my second question? My question, there wasn't actually two, there's just one. Mm-hmm. Perfect. If you could answer it, thank you.
So to the question of performance pay, as I have said in my remarks, the performance pay is a critical part of total compensation.
My question was just whether or not you would be giving it. Will you be giving bonuses to executives?
My response to that question is to say that we have a process, a rigorous process. It is not my decision to award performance pay. It is, in fact, the decision of the board of directors, and that decision comes at the end of the fiscal year. We have another 2 months before we reach the end of the fiscal year. And as I have also said in public, Everything is on the table.
And this is kind of where we start to smell a little bullshit. Because if you go to the CBC's website, in the leadership roles, senior executive team, she's there. Yet, if you go to the board of directors, which she said was the people who make the decisions whether people are getting bonuses or not, well, look who's also on the board of directors. And who do you think this board is actually going to listen to and hear when it comes to these bonuses? Do you not think that she has some sort of final say in this? You don't think that maybe she has some sort of persuasion in getting the decision made? Come on now. Now, as the clip's going to go on, you're really going to see Rachel get into her and kind of call her out on her BS, because Catherine likes to state that the results or the bonuses are only given out if certain targets are hit. And Rachel tells her, well, you've basically hit none of your targets, but are still thinking about getting it. So how does that work?
So we will see at the end of fiscal year, based on results and where we are financially.
So as the CEO, you do not make the decision. You have no say in whether or not bonuses are granted.
All of the management team measures and analyzes our results on an annual basis, which are published very clearly in our
CEO,
in the quarterly
you have no
reports.
say in whether or not bonuses are given.
All of the management team presents to the board of directors the results of our year against KPIs, key performance indicators that have been tracked throughout the year, and based on the analysis and the results, the board of directors makes its decision. I should just point out, perhaps of interest, for example, last year, we did not meet 2 of our KPIs, and our bonus level
I'll go to my
was
next
reduced.
question now. I realize that you'll do your best to talk out the clock, so I'll just kind of keep us going along here. My next question is this. Those KPIs, would you table those with this committee?
They're public in our annual report.
Perfect. Thank you. Based on the metrics that are used then, last year, you gave out $16 million in taxpayer-funded bonuses to the staff. That was an average of $14,000 to staff members at the CBC. Most Canadians don't even see half of that in a bonus, not even a quarter of that in a yearly bonus. $14,000 was the average amount that was given to CBC staff. What were the metrics that were used in order to determine that bonus amount?
So again, the KPIs are published, and they're very clearly have to do with performance of the service. For example, digital reach. For example, engagement with news in the regions. For example, performance on engagement with kids and children. All of those are published very clearly in our annual report. And I actually want to, if I may I ask? I think your number is wrong. If I want to correct the record,
I would just highlight for you that it's interesting to me because you're saying that these are the metrics, but actually the viewership of the CBC is cut in half since you took leadership in 2018. It's come down by half. So it's interesting to me that you're giving bonuses or performance awards when in fact the CBC is performing the poorest it's ever performed. So bonuses keep going up, they keep skyrocketing, but performance, as you say, the bonuses are granted based on.
I really, if I may, Madam Chair, I'd like to correct the record. If I may correct the record.
Tate, my question for you, for 2023, will you be given a bonus?
I would like to correct the record, if I may, Madam Chair. First of all, I don't believe the number was 16 million in last year. I'm going to ask Marco Dubé, who manages the people in culture at our company, to correct the error that the member has stated.
Sorry, Madam Chair, through you, I do have a question on the table, and that is, Ms. Tate, for 2023, will you be given a bonus?
I'm going to come back to your question after he corrects the record.
Madam Chair, I would ask you, through you, Madam Chair, the witness knows that her instructions here are to answer the questions that have been given.
Have 27
she can correct
seconds.
the record by sending in a written notice if she wishes.
You can do that, Ms. Tate. You've gone over time.
My time has been interrupted numerous times because the witness doesn't want to answer my question. It's very simple. Will she be given a bonus in 2020?
It's not my decision whether I get a bonus or not.
And right there, like, come on. Who does she think we are? A bunch of fools? that the CEO has no control over the bonuses that she's gonna get while she's on the board that decides who gets the bonuses? Like, come on. But, that's besides the point. Later on, an NDP member asks her if she can clarify what the actual number is for the bonuses. If it's not 16 million, what actually is it? And the Marco guy beside her says, oh, it's just under 15 million, 14.9. Now, going from 16 million to 15 million, that's now going from $14,000 to $13,000 in a bonus. That is still a lot of a bonus. So they're really grasping at straws here in this defense of theirs. Now, for the rest of this clip, you're going to hear Rachel kind of go at her again, and she gets a little bit saucy because Catherine prides herself on how many corrections the CBC actually put out in order to correct stories that they've announced. And Rachel uses that as a little bit of a jab towards the end of this clip here.
In addition to that, the comment about CBC, Radio-Canada, and being a trusted network, in those media surveys, CBC Radio-Canada still ranks as the most trusted source of news in this country. Yes, numbers have come down because social media is dragging all of the media down. But the reality is we are still number one in terms of trust.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Ms. Thomas now for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tate, I'm just curious, what study is that based on?
That's the Gustafson report from the University of Victoria.
Okay. And what's the sample size?
Yeah, I'd have to check on that.
And how is the study completed?
They do it every year.
Okay. It just differs from other studies that have been done that show that trust in the CBC is actually one of the worst trust levels out of any media company in the country. So I just want to make sure that that is juxtaposed.
I think you would want to look at the Gustafson there. It's a university of...
Sorry, Chair, I'll just ask the witness not to interrupt me or speak over me.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, Ms. Tate, You made mention before, actually, sorry, this will be my question. I'm curious if you've hired any consultants during your time as CEO.
Over the 6 years that I've been at CBC Radio-Canada, I personally do not hire consultants. I don't have a budget for that, but certainly in the company there have been consultants, yes.
Okay. Were consultants used to come to the determination that 800 jobs needed to be cut?
No.
Okay, so that determination was made on your own?
It was made as a result of an analysis of our financial situation, the structural deficit that we were facing with the management team that you have before you, but also our CFO and others that aren't at the table, yes.
Ultimately, who makes the recommendation that 800 jobs be cut?
I take full responsibility for that decision.
Okay, thank you. And ultimately, who makes the final recommendation with regards to performance awards?
That's a more complex process, as I've described. We have a very rigorous, transparent, measured approach that is presented to the board of it goes to the board of directors, and they ultimately.
But who makes that recommendation to the board of directors?
The entire management team.
The entire management team.
Correct.
On the CBC website, it says you do, Ms. Tate.
The entire management team. I don't make decisions alone. I have a fabulous team that I work with.
I wonder if you would consider correcting that error on the website then.
We could.
Will you?
We'll take it under consideration.
You do that. Perhaps you can report back to this committee your final decision, yes?
Yes.
Perfect.
Now, the last thing I want to say, if Catherine is talking about how CBC is struggling with revenue and all this stuff, then I think maybe she should be taking up Tucker Carlson's suggestion in interviewing him, as he did when he was talking to Danielle Smith and called out the CBC, who actually have declined his offer. But I think that would probably bring in quite a few ratings.
Can I say one last thing? You said CBC is in the room, the state media. I would love to do an interview. Hold on. I would love to do an interview with CBC. Meet me backstage. I dare you to put it on TV. Thanks.
With all that being said, love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about this whole situation? Do you think she's full of it? Do you think she's telling the truth? Do you think it's more complicated than it is? Leave your comment in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.